Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am Myra Dandridge, and I am the Executive Director of External Affairs and Public Policy at NADA. My esteemed guest and I will be discussing the contributions of African Americans in the automotive retail industry, but more specifically, I want to talk to them about their journey and the trail that they are blazing and have blazed in this space. So I'd like to introduce Jenell Ross, who
Hello.
is the president of the Bob Ross Auto Group, which has locations in Centerville, Ohio, and 3 franchises, Buick, GMC, and the Mercedes-Benz dealership. And I understand, Jenell, that this is going to be 50 years for Bob Ross being in business this year. So congratulations to you and your
Thank
family.
you. Yes, it's actually this month, so excited about that.
That's great. Also joining me is Nate Sutton, and Nate is the president of Sutton Auto Group. Sutton is located in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and Florida. You have 4 dealerships, 2 Honda and 2 Ford dealerships, correct?
Correct. We are, yes, thank you.
Great. So let's get into this. My first question goes to you, Nate. You are an engineer by trade. In fact, you graduated from Michigan State University and got your undergraduate in engineering. Tell us, how do you go from being an engineer to buying car dealerships?
So, engineering is a heavy math curriculum, as you know, and it really trains you how to problem solve. And I always knew that I really had an interest in sales, so after a short stint as an engineer, I became a engineering specialist in sales for IBM, and that sparked my interest in sales, and I left IBM and went into retail car business. Just we were looking for a business to buy. We narrowed it down to purchasing of a franchise, and we looked at fast food and automotive and chose automotive, and here we are, 34 years later.
That's great. Congratulations. So I'm going to direct the same question at Jenell, and I know that your history in the automotive retail industry is a little different than Nate's because you unfortunately were unexpectedly thrust into being a dealer principal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to grow up in the industry. My dad became an auto dealer when I was 4. So I've lived the environment, had the opportunity to work with him, but unfortunately he passed away at an early age of 62, and I took over the day-to-day operations when I was 27. And,
so young.
And actually, it's 27 years later. We're still here and kicking. So very fortunate to have the time that I did to work with him, but extremely fortunate for the team that he had in place, that had the trust and the wherewithal to know that by staying with us, it was still going to be a great environment for them and their families and an opportunity, and continue to work at it, and still working at it every day.
That's great. Congratulations again. So both of you are very successful business people. And being successful and being able to build a successful enterprise takes a certain level and a certain type of grit, persistence, and tenacity. Can you guys explain what have been some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome in your journey to this point, and what are some of the lessons learned, if you can share that?
Oh, Nate's throwing it to me. Okay. Well, one thing that Nate probably has never had to worry about is being in a room full of men as an African-American female in the automobile business. So those are obstacles that I still face today, that I can face going into a dealer meeting, because there's just not too many people that look like me. And that's one thing that we need to continue to work on, so that there are more women. And I know that Nate, fortunately has 2 daughters that he has raised up in this business and are, I won't steal your thunder, but we're continuing to grow that network. But in terms of obstacles, there were a lot, especially taking over. I had been in the business, but not truly prepared to be running the business. And so, I did go through NADA dealer school, and it's really just continuing to utilize the education and resources that are around to continue to break down those obstacles that come along the way. Unfortunately, there are those that don't want to see you succeed, and there were several conversations about our dealership, because it was a very well-run dealership, that people wanted to purchase, and they told me that I would never make it. And so it's very nice to see them when I do, and maybe they're no longer in the business.
You are.
And I am.
That's right.
So those are some, obstacles that continue to happen, unfortunately, in our day. But I'm just proud to be able to do what I do.
Great.
So the largest challenges for every startup business is capitalization. You're investing not only 101% of your time, but you also just have to make sure you manage cash and resources properly. So our largest obstacle, I remember back when we had a second and third mortgage on our house, and that was really the largest challenge. So we operate on a 40-30-30, where we retain 40% of profit as retained earnings. Operator bonus is 30, and the other 30% is for taxes. And because we had such a challenging role starting up with capitalization, now all the dealerships are very well capitalized. They're all debt-free, because by retaining earnings, it has eliminated all of our challenges in terms of capitalization. But that was, for us, the number one obstacle in sustaining and being a dealer for 34 years.
Great. Jenell, I wanted to go back to you for a second and I guess build on what you said about some of the obstacles in terms of being a woman. Do you see that things have changed just a little bit, where people are a little bit more accepting because there are more women in the industry and more women that are running businesses?
I mean, things have definitely changed, and I think even yesterday, of having the opportunity to have, the NAD Women Retail event for the day, and what Aaron Kerrigan did the night before of having women dealers. These are things that did not happen 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I've been coming to NADA and other automotive meetings since I was a kid. So it is very nice to see, and a breath of fresh air, nothing against my male counterparts, to have those opportunities to really embrace women and let them know that there's a lot of opportunity in our business for them. Right. And that's one thing that I like to do, is go into schools and let not just young people know in general the opportunities that we have in our industry, but specifically for women. So we do have a long way to go. Our numbers are not looking stellar in terms of ownership of automobile dealerships, but I know there's women out there that really are striving to take that leap.
Well, that's really good, because I'm hoping every day that things change and that there are bigger numbers and better numbers for women as we move forward. Nate, I know that you are semi-retired and you've been in the industry for 30 plus years. What does it mean for you to be a first generation African American dealer principal? Because I don't have to tell you, not very long ago, African Americans could not go into the bank and ask for a bank loan or anything, especially for a dealership. So what does it mean for you, your family, and just the legacy that you're trying to create to be a first generation owner?
Yeah, so it's always the pride of generational wealth as a goal. My wife and I, we established that as a goal when we when we purchased the dealership and began our careers. So it's a lot of personal pride, but you know the real pride, of course, is when your children embrace some of your core values. So core values on how you run your business and core values on how to operate the business. So we have 3 daughters, 2 who are now dealer principals, and them embracing those values and now being our second generation in the retail car business is great.
So I'm going to ask Jenell the same question, as she is a second generation dealer principal.
Well, it's been a true honor to have the opportunity to be unfortunately the first second generation African American female, but I'm glad to know there are several others that are coming right with me on this journey, and that is extremely important and not something that I would want to retain on my own. But I feel that even though, like you said, we're celebrating our 50th year in business this year, I still do feel that I'm trying to fill the boots, not shoes, of my parents. But to have the opportunity that I do, I don't take it lightly. I relish the opportunity that I have. Mm-hmm. I do try to make sure that my team understands the passion of why I do what I do. We may not be the largest dealer group in our city or region, but we definitely want to make sure that we're taking care of our customers. And, for my dad, who did not go to college, to be able to purchase his first dealership from the same person that he worked for in high school, when people told him he would not be successful, that's not something you want to let go, and that you take lightly. So I do enjoy what I do, look forward to adding more into the organization and branching out our organization. I don't know about another 50, but just knowing that of what they went through. Yeah. My dad was fortunate to be in the first minority dealer class that General Motors had. So we've experienced a few firsts in the industry, and for that, it just lets people know that if you really put your mind to something, you can make it happen, because it definitely was not supposed to be him or me.
Wow. That's deep. That's incredible. So we are at the very beginning of Black History Month. And when I look at you two, I see Black history excellence. Can you talk a bit about what or how you think African Americans have contributed to the overall auto industry? Because Jenell, you said something very interesting. Your dad was in the first class of the General Motors Minority Dealer Academy. Your dad was a very strong entrepreneur and a trailblazer. So I think that that's really very significant. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you think and how you, Nate, think that African Americans have contributed to the overall automobile industry.
Well, we've contributed in a lot of ways. I mean, if you go back to C.H. Patterson, there's a long list of trailblazers long before we got to the retail side of the business. And that's where our history is. I mean, we could be here for hours in regards to what contributions have been made by African Americans in the automotive space as a whole. And that's a true blessing and something that we need to continue to tell. And for me, what I did yesterday with my team was provide them, for those that don't know, like my parents and really the history, I said, yes, it's the beginning of Black History Month, but I said, let me tell you about our Black history. And a lot of them bounced back and was just really appreciative of finding out other tidbits on our family that maybe they did not know. But the more that we can educate and tell our stories, the more that it makes us even more relevant to what those before us have done.
Yeah. Nate?
For clearly, in the automotive space, African Americans have contributed in engineering, manufacturing, all the way to the executive suite. For years, even after they were making entries and having much success in corporate, at the manufacturing level and corporate level, we were not we were not in the retail space in any significant numbers. So we're constantly reminded, in African, this being the month, that we are indeed first generations oftentimes in the retail space. So African Americans being included in the retail space in numbers beginning in the 80s and then more numbers in the 90s, I think is just contributing to that history.
Yeah. Let me ask both of you this. What inspires you when you wake up in the morning? Where do you get your inspiration from to keep going?
For me, I like that no 2 days are the same in our industry. We're all going to have bad days, but as long as the majority of your days are better, more positive than not, we're going to have challenges, but it's just we're providing an opportunity not only for ourselves, but for our teams and their families to grow. It's the excitement to still have that first new vehicle of a new model come in. You still want to see it. You still want to get in it. You still want to, I want to be the one to drive it. And I've been known to have a little heavy foot, so my team's always like, well, yeah, I'm going to ride with her so I don't get in trouble. But, you're still fulfilling a need or a want for someone, still the second potential largest purchase that they're going to make, and for them to have the confidence in us to do that, and if they have that confidence even repeatedly to do that, that's what we strive for, and that's the excitement. Yes, we all want to make more money, but it's just seeing people's faces, even if I've seen them before, of getting what they want. It may be a want for some, but it's a true need that they've been saving for. That's the excitement. And to help those that really want to learn more about our industry and how we can help them grow.
Yeah, my excitement is really in helping the team grow. So when we bought the dealership in 1989, the number one reason for wage garnishments were hospital bills. And the dealer in 1989 had a $5,000 deductible. And I could not understand how he did not provide basic health insurance to the team. So the first thing we did, even though we were broke, is provide health insurance, and we installed immediately a $500 deductible on a PPO and a HMO, which of course got everyone involved. So for me, my charge still every day is how much can we give back? So we've been graced to be tithers. We've been graced to give 10% back of our PBIT every year for 34 consecutive years. And we use that money for the community. We use it for Christian organizations, but mostly we give it back. And our goal is to die broke, if you will. And we are, and that's what really motivates me to keep going, because you reach a point where you have enough stuff, and we reached that point years ago, my wife and I. So when we look at buying more dealerships, I was perfectly content with one, and then the industry changed, right? So we had to diversify from Ford and wound up buying Honda. Then we, of course, and because my daughters have more energy than I, they wanted more, so we wound up buying a third and a fourth. But the motivation really is how much can we give back? And my wife and I have a goal. We give it back more than we keep. So whatever we pay ourselves, we will, well, first we tied off the company, but on a personal level, we give back more than we keep. And that motivates me.
That is truly inspiring. I'm trying to get to that point. So let me ask you on the flip side of that, what keeps you up at night? Because NADA and the industry has a lot of issues, a lot of regulatory issues. What are some of the issues that keep you up?
I think the biggest challenge facing our industry are our transition to electric vehicles or PHEVs and the timetable in which the government has laid out. I think it's a very large objective in a very short window. I think there are a lot of challenges for infrastructure. There are a lot of challenges for manufacturing. So I think the biggest challenge going forward is how are you going to manage that change? How will we internally manage that change? EVs have 5,000 parts, roughly. Combustion engine has 15 to 20,000 parts. What is that going to look like to our service departments in 10 years when 67% of the vehicles produced, if we hit the mandates and they're not they're not extended, what is that going to look like in our industry? And I think that is my number one concern is, will my kids have the opportunity to be dealers 20, 30 years from now? What will the dealer body look like? And it's a multi-billion-dollar question.
I do agree with Nate on the electrification. It is a huge concern, but trying to look at it as an opportunity, but just being realistic of where we are. And the other thing I think everyone's struggling with in our new normal is retention of our team and continuing to acquire people to come into our industry. And it's making us be even more creative of trying to find those right team members that you want to bring on board and allow them the opportunity to grow. But between those two, there can be a lot with that.
Those are some serious challenges. Well, I have one more question for both of you. And it's kind of like a throwaway question that I like to ask. It's a goofy question, but they're different questions for both of you. I'm going to start with you, Jenell. So, what advice would you give to a 10-year-old Jenell? Knowing what you know today, what advice would you give yourself at 10 years old?
I would say to never let anyone deter you from what you want to do, because like I said, there were a number of people who said that I would never be able to do what I do, and I always wanted to be in the automobile business as a dealer, naturally growing up in it, and just realizing that there's always going to be those that don't support you, but definitely try to surround yourself with those that do appreciate you and see the good in you. And don't give up. There's going to be days, we all have days that we don't want to do what we do. But knowing what, again, and I go back to knowing what my parents sacrificed for, that's what drives me. And even at 10, I was that one going to the dealership on Sunday, jumping in and out of cars, because that's what I wanted to do. So just don't let anyone tell you that you can't.
Excellent. And for you, Nate, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would that be?
Well, that's a good question. There's something out there called self-fulfilling prophecy. And when my wife and I got married, I told her, let's save your check and live on mine. And she said, why? And I said, because we might want to buy a business one day. And we started out buying apartments. We wound up with 60 apartments in like 5 years. We were going to have 400. And I had this big plan to be a real estate magnate, have 400 or 500 units, leave IBM. I was with IBM, leave IBM and take their 20 and out at 42, 45 years old. And that was my plan. So I think if I were not in the retail car business, I would be in some other self-employed business. Because when we made that decision to save her check, we had what we needed.
Excellent, excellent. I want to thank both of you for joining us today. Hopefully, we all have inspired someone out there who is watching and listening to this. And again, happy Black History Month. And I would be remiss if I did not say happy birthday to you, Jenell, as you will be celebrating the birthday on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.